By the time the bus doors opened for the last time that night, a quiet sentence had already traveled farther than any ticket could take it: "Sit with me, you're not alone." No one on Route 7 knew those words would ripple through an entire city, or that a single dad with tired eyes and a school lunchbox in his bag would be the one to say them. But if you stay with me, I'll show you how a handful of seconds on a crowded bus can grow into a shelter big enough for strangers, and why, years later, a small blue ribbon on an empty seat still makes people breathe easier before they sit down. The bus was late, the kind of late that swallows patience and replaces it with sweat. Evening pressed its forehead against the windows, fogging the glass with city breath. Vendors were folding their stalls, horns were arguing with each other, and Route 7 finally lumbered into the stop with a hiccuping cough. People surged, elbows, bags, murmurs, like a wave trying to climb inside a bottle. Sanaa stood on the platform clutching her backpack to her chest. She was 22, a university student who'd learned to walk with headphones in and keys between her fingers, though the songs were often silent and the keys were a trembling comfort more than a weapon. On her phone, a to-do list glowed: presentation slides, part-time shift tomorrow, call Amma, finish scholarship essay. The list looked like a staircase she climbed every day. She found a standing spot near the back, fingers hooked to the overhead strap. The bus groaned forward. Somewhere near the middle, a single empty seat blinked like a small kindness, but an older woman took it first and Sanaa was glad. Better that way. You can't guard everything at once: your backpack, your scarf, your space, and sitting sometimes made it harder. The bus packed tighter at every stop. The air smelled of engine heat and rain hiding in the dust. A group of 3 young men, laughing the kind of laugh that isn't laughter, shifted closer. One of them wore a cologne that tried too hard and a grin that didn't. Another had a phone held low, angled like a question he already knew the answer to. "Baji, kahan ja rahi ho?" "University," the tall one asked, voice light and sticky. Sanaa stared ahead, careful not to answer. "Don't feed it." Her grandmother had taught her that trick with stray dogs and unwanted conversations alike. "Eri, she's shy," the short one said, the words folding into a whisper that wasn't quiet. He bumped his shoulder into hers, not hard enough to be called hitting, not soft enough to be an accident. A hand brushed her elbow. It lingered. She recoiled, but there was only so much space to fall back into. The bus hit a pothole and bodies pressed like a crowd in a small prayer. Laughter. A phone camera clicked, or maybe it was just the sound of her fear-inventing devices. She considered pulling the bell and getting off early, even if it meant a 20-minute walk in the dark. But the stop they were passing was the one with the broken streetlight. The next one was better. In the row ahead, a man tapped the shoulder of the person beside him and offered a tired smile, the kind fathers give when they're carving courage out of exhaustion. He looked like anyone, mid-30s, square jaw, shirt sleeves rolled to his forearms. A school lunchbox peeked from a canvas bag at his feet. He wasn't imposing, not the kind who could push a crowd aside. But his eyes had the practiced calm of someone who has been scared before and learned the secret, that you don't have to be fearless to be brave. Near his knee, a girl of about 9 sat with swinging feet, humming under her breath and tracing shapes on the window fog with a finger. She wore a blue ribbon in her hair, the kind you earn for showing up and keep because it reminds you to show up again. The man watched the way the crowd closed around Sanaa, the way it didn't close around anyone else. He noticed her backpack clutched too tight. How she shrank from a touch and then from her shrinking. He noticed the space around the 3 men, a pocket of permission no one had given them. He stood. People muttered. At rush hour, a seat is a treasure. You don't surrender it without a reason, and reasons often come with noise. He didn't explain. He just stepped into the narrow aisle, put himself between Sanaa and the men, and tilted his head towards the seat he'd vacated. "Sit with me," he said to her, calm as a stop announcement. "You're not alone." The 3 words sliced through the laughter like a clear bell. Sanaa blinked, surprised it was addressed to her. She hesitated, scanning for the trap. Was this just another version of the same game? But the girl with the blue ribbon scooted closer to the window, patting the space beside her. Baba says this is the safe side, she whispered. The men frowned, confusion sloshing into annoyance. The tall one rolled his eyes. Oh ho, hero Aya, he muttered. Brother, what's the problem? We're just standing. The father didn't look at them. He smiled at Sana instead, a small bridge, 2 planks wide. She crossed it. She slid into the seat, hands still shaking. The lunchbox in the bag bumped her ankle. It made an ordinary sound she was grateful for. Thank you, she said. Always. He stood in the aisle now, one hand gripping the overhead bar, his body a quiet wall. The bus thundered through another pothole. The men adjusted, their bravado tilting. The short one smirked. Baji needed a bodyguard, he said, trying to reel laughter back into the air. That's my dad, the girl announced, as if presenting a shield. He's a single dad. Single means double brave, she added, like she'd invented the term. The tall man smirked at the father. Why don't you mind your own family? I am, the father said. My family doesn't stop where my name does. The bus driver kept his eyes on the road. The conductor, counting out change with copper-colored fingers, glanced, hesitated. Then drifted closer. Bye, everything okay? Everything's fine, the father said, still not looking at the men. Just making sure everyone goes home the same way they left. Sana watched the girls shoe tap-tap against the floor. The city sped by, a seamstress folding away a dress, a boy washing a stall with a bucket of light. The girl held out a sticker, glittery, shaped like a star. For your notebook, she said. Thank you, Sana whispered, and the sticker's sparkle steadied her breath. The tall man tried again. Why are you acting like she's yours? Because she is, the father replied simply. Tonight, in this bus, she is. Silence settled, strange and heavy. It was not that the men were suddenly ashamed. Shame requires mirrors, and some people live in rooms without any. But they were suddenly visible, in the way a flashlight makes a lizard pause. Visibility is a kind of leash when you've been running in the dark. At the next stop, the conductor stepped a foot into the aisle, like a referee who just remembered the rules. If anyone is uncomfortable, he said, louder than necessary, we can make space. He gestured, and a couple of passengers shifted, creating a deliberate buffer. The 3 men found themselves standing in a small island of their own. It's harder to misbehave when the room refuses to be your accomplice. The short one shoved his phone into his pocket. The tall one clicked his tongue like he was above all this. They got off 2 stops later, their laughter sounding suddenly thin. When the doors closed, a gentle tide released. People met each other's eyes, nodding in that awkward way strangers do after sharing something that counted. Sana realized she'd been counting her breaths and, for the first time in 10 minutes, lost track. Relief is a kind of forgetting. I'm a deal, the father said at last, offering his name the way you offer a glass of water. Sana, she replied. And I'm Noor, the girl said. I'm in class 4. My teacher says if something is not okay, you should say, this is not okay like a signboard. I think your face was a signboard. Sana almost laughed. The sound cracked like a seed hatching. Maybe it was. They rode in an easy quiet until the bus sighed at Sana's stop. She stood, and Noor sprang up too, as if readiness were a reflex. Thank you, Sana said again, softer this time, like a prayer meant for 2 people. Adil nodded. If you ever end up on Route 7 again and it feels crowded where it shouldn't, look for us. Or look for an empty seat with a little blue ribbon tied to it. He pulled the ribbon from Noor's extra hair tie and knotted it around the top of the seat they'd shared. The bow sat there like a tiny landmark. What does it mean? Sana asked. It means this is a safe side, nor answered. Sana smiled. Then I'll remember. She stepped off into the night, and the doors folded behind her like hands. The bus pulled away, and in its tail lights, a sticker star flashed once and disappeared. Sana did not know yet that this was not the end of the story, only the first page of a longer map. 2 days later, Sana stood at the front of her seminar room, heart hammering in the throat-shaped way it always did before a presentation. Her slides were neat, her arguments tidy. But when the professor asked for questions, a classmate raised her hand and said, "You mentioned invisible infrastructures that keep people safe or unsafe. What does that look like in daily life?" Sana looked at the window, where the city's spine of traffic glowed. She thought of a bus and a blue ribbon. She thought of a voice saying, "My family doesn't stop where my name does." She told the story without names, only verbs: stood, offered, shielded, shifted. She made room for how small the action had been and how large it felt. The room listened. When she finished, someone in the back whispered, "We should do that on our route." After class, Sana walked to the bus stop with her backpack a little lighter. She didn't know whether Adil and Noor would be on the same bus again. Cities are full of almosts, but she found herself scanning for a blue ribbon anyway. She didn't see one. Instead, she saw a woman in a pink dupatta hesitating at the door, the way you do when you've memorized the first step but not the second. Sana smiled at her, a small signal. On board, 2 teenagers sprawled over 3 seats, filming each other with the tired arrogance of borrowed power. Near the back, a conductor counted change like a metronome. The bus lurched. At the 3rd stop, a man with a heavy voice started teasing the woman in pink. It wasn't clever. It never is. It was the same script, rewritten badly every night. Sana felt her stomach knot, the old reflex of looking for exits. Then she remembered the ribbon, invisible and real. She stood. There was no one to swap with, no familiar safe side. Her legs were shaking anyway. "You can sit with me," she told the woman in pink. "You're not alone." The words felt borrowed and brand new at the same time. The woman slid into the space beside Sana like she'd been trying to shrink for too long. Sana kept her shoulder square to the aisle. The man grumbled. The conductor glanced. A teenager laughed, then glanced at the man and stopped. Copycats can uncopy, too. At the next light, the driver's mirror caught Sana's eye. He lifted his chin, a wordless nod. The bus moved forward. Something else did, too. The river of permission had shifted banks. When Sana reached her stop, the woman in pink squeezed her hand. "Thank you, Beta." "Always," Sana said, trying it on, finding it fit. That night at home, Sana opened her scholarship essay and erased the first paragraph. She started again, this time with the bus. She wrote about ordinary courage, about the math of small things, about how cheap words are until someone holds them like an umbrella and says, "Come under." She wrote until the city fell asleep around her. Across town, Noor untied a fresh blue ribbon from a pack her teacher had given the class for art day. "Baba, can we carry extras?" she asked. "What if our seat is taken but someone else needs a safe side?" Adil smiled. "It's not the seat that's safe, John. It's the people." He dropped a handful of ribbons into his bag anyway. For a week, they placed them in quiet corners of buses, sometimes tying, sometimes just resting them on a seat back for someone to find. They didn't leave notes. They didn't need to. The bow said what it needed to say: "Someone thought about you before you arrived." People noticed. A tailor on her commute to Gulberg saw a ribbon one morning and, later that day, tied a scrap of cloth to the women's bench in her shop. A schoolteacher clipped one to the corner of her desk and told her class 2 students, "This is for anyone having a hard day, sit here and breathe." A conductor began to keep an eye out, nudging men away from the back row and muttering, "Blue side, by," as if it had always been a rule. Not everyone liked it. Two boys yanked a ribbon off a seat and tied it around their wrists, smirking, but when the driver stopped the bus and pointed at the door, they suddenly found the joke less funny. A man snapped, "What is this nonsense?" and another replied, "It's what your mother would have wanted for you." Cities are full of mothers, even when they are not around. One evening, as summer leaned toward rain, Sanaa boarded Route 7 again. Heart steady. Backpack lighter. She'd brought a ribbon, just in case. She didn't expect to see them, but there they were, Noor, swinging her feet, Adil, holding a grocery bag heavy enough to mean, "We're out of rice." The blue ribbon on their seat fluttered in the fan's breeze. Noor spotted her first. "Sanaa." Sanaa laughed. "I kept looking for you." "Me too," Noor said seriously. "I have something." She dug into her backpack and pulled out a small hand-drawn sign laminated with plastic. It read, "Safe side, SIT here if you need space." Beneath, a smaller line in Noor's careful handwriting, "You're not alone." Sanaa's throat tightened. "Did you make this?" "Me and Baba and Miss Shazia's laminator," Noor declared proudly. Adil shifted the groceries so he could offer a handshake. "We've been leaving these with the ribbons when we have enough. Don't know how long they'll last, but maybe long enough to help." "They'll last longer than you think," Sanaa said. "I told my class. And my professor. And the girl in the pink dupatta. And I told myself. That counts most." A commotion at the front made them all turn. A young boy, 15, if you unstretched the bravado, was edging too close to a girl's shoulder, his phone angled wrong. An older man noticed, scowled, then looked away. The driver's mirror flickered. Noor's sign sat between Sanaa and Adil like a loaded word. Adil glanced at Sanaa. She was already standing. He moved with her, both of them stepping into the aisle so. Naturally it looked choreographed. "Baji," Sanaa said to the girl, gentle but capable. "There's a seat here." She pointed to the blue ribbon and the sign. Her voice didn't tremble this time. The girl slid in, grateful. The boy drew back, face flushing the way faces do when they're deprived of a darkness they thought belonged to them. "Bye," Adil said to the boy, voice low enough to be private but firm enough to be heard. "When you grow up, you'll want the world to be kind to someone you love. Start practicing now." The boy muttered something defensive, then something apologetic, and found a place near the door where the mirror could see him. The older man near the front shifted, ashamed of his own earlier silence. He cleared his throat. "Beta, next time, tell me," he said to the girl. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The conductor, who'd seen too much and not enough, tapped the overhead bar. "From today," he said to the whole bus, "if you see this blue ribbon or this sign, make space." No arguments. People nodded. Not everyone meant it, but enough did to tip the floor. As the bus rolled, the city exhaled. Rain came finally, a polite curtain. Sanaa and Adil found themselves smiling at the same joke, the one where the universe gives you exactly the right strangers at exactly the right time. A stop before theirs, Noor tugged Sanaa's sleeve. "When I'm big," she said with the absolute authority of 9-year-olds, "I'm going to put blue ribbons everywhere. On benches and in classrooms and on the internet. I'll tie one to the whole world." Sanaa laughed, eyes stinging. "I think you already started." They stepped off together at the market. The rain softened into mist. Adil shifted the rice to his other arm. "Tea?" he asked. "There's a stall on the corner. The man there will pretend he doesn't know me and then give me extra biscuits." They stood under the awning, steam rising like prayers. People passed in a different rhythm than they had yesterday. Perhaps nothing had changed. Or perhaps a little had, and that was enough. Sanaa stirred her tea and told them about the seminar, the question, the answer. Adil told her about work, shifts he'd picked up, a construction site that would be mud tomorrow, the arithmetic of paying bills with dignity. Noor told them both that her teacher had given the class a new word, ally. It means someone who stands beside you, she said. Baba says it also means someone who sits with you, if that's what you need. Cars hissed by, tires holding small rivers. At the stop across the street, a woman hesitated, scanning the crowded bus. On the second row, a blue ribbon fluttered. Sana reached into her bag and pulled out another ribbon. She handed it to Adil. For the next bus. He nodded. For the next person. They finished their tea and walked to the stop together. When the bus arrived, they tied the ribbon to the seat back with a knot that would hold but could be untied by someone who needed to borrow it. They left a sign. They stepped on. Adil looked at Sana and then at Noor. He could feel the old ache of losses that had shaped him, the marriage that ended in silence and grief, the years of learning how to be two parents with one body. He thought about how courage doesn't make you bigger, it makes you fit better into the space you already occupy. As the bus pushed the city along its nightly route, a dozen small decisions began to glow like windows lit after dusk. A college girl who chose to sit instead of shrink. A conductor who decided the rules were worth saying out loud. A boy who moved his phone and his shame to the door. A man who realized his family could include more than one last name. A child who believed blue ribbon could be a verb. And you, watching, listening, remembering. Because maybe tomorrow you'll be standing on a bus or in a queue or in a hallway, and you'll notice the world tipping towards someone's fear. Maybe your legs will shake. Maybe your voice won't be anything like a trumpet. That's fine. That's normal. You can still be a signboard. You can still speak the sentence that built a shelter for strangers on Route 7. Sit with me, you'll say. You're not alone. And that, I promise, will be enough to begin.